a kingdom trembling on the edge of transformation, a restless, feverish melting pot of ambition, fear, and faith. Cities choked with dust and incense, village tracks worn by bare feet and horse hooves, and over it all, the tolling of church bells that never seemed to stop. Narrow lanes rang with the cries of hawkers, the stink of dung and smoke, the clang of forge and bell, yet beneath the din lay the deeper rumble of a realm tearing at its own seams. King Philip IV and his ministers stood locked in a dangerous waltz with restless nobles and provinces, their quarrel over power, taxes, and conscience about to engulf the monarchy in revolt and war. Merchants whispered of profit and peril. Silver from the Indies, wool from Castile, grain from Sicily, spices from Manila, even as plague crept through the alleys and starvation gnawed at the poor. Churches thundered with sermons of divine judgment, and every tavern corner brimmed with talk of prophecy, rebellion, and decline. Life was precarious, unforgiving, and charged with purpose. Men and women lived closer to death, yet perhaps closer to meaning. Welcome to Spain in 1640. A tour of a kingdom on the brink, pieced together from maps, letters, and chronicles of the age. In 1640, Madrid was no mere provincial town. It was an early modern hybrid of royal fortress, bustling marketplace, and sprawling bureaucracy. An architectural and political tangle of stone, dust, and ceremony. Crowded houses leaned into narrow streets, their upper stories almost touching, while courtyards hid stables, servants, and secrets. By day, the crush of carts and bodies never ceased around the Plaza Mayor. Here, executions, markets, festivals, and proclamations shared the same cobbles. From its arcades, royal decrees were read aloud and punishments carried out, a constant reminder of the power of the crown and the cost of defiance. It was Spain in miniature, congested, volatile, and vividly alive. To the south, Seville, once the glittering gateway to the New World, was where Spain shed its solemn mask and bared its appetite for spectacle. Along the banks of the Guadalquivir, ships creaked at anchor, and taverns spilled drinkers into twisting streets. The air was thick and heavy with the scents of wine, river mud, roasted meat, and rot. Bear-baiting pits, early bull spectacles, and noisy inns drew crowds hungry for distraction. Harlots called from doorways, their voices cutting through the clatter of carts and the stamping of hooves. Gamblers leaned over rough wooden tables, sailors boasted of storms and pirates, and overseers haggled over cargo stained by salt and sweat. It was a district of earth and sin, of vice and vitality, where Spain came to forget its conscience, to trade its cares for a moment of thrill, of terror, and of taste, in every alley and crowded yard, its own wild, unbridled heart. In the 1640s, Toledo still wore its ancient guise, a stony crown above the Tagus, austere and weathered long before Madrid rose to full glory. Its great cathedral towered over a maze of cramped streets, bookshops, and workshops, where canon lawyers, scribes, and theologians argued over doctrine and destiny. Around its cloisters and plazas sprawled a world of scribes and printers, where sermons, treatises, and quietly dangerous ideas passed hand to hand, feeding the kingdom's restless mind. Inside the cathedral, gentlemen, friars, beggars, and pilgrims mingled beneath the vaulted gloom. Toledo was the spiritual and intellectual heart of old Spain, a monument of faith and endurance, its stones darkened by centuries of smoke, yet stubbornly reaching toward heaven. In just a few decades, the balance of power would tilt irreversibly toward Madrid, and the old primatial city would be left as a grand echo of a fading order. Madrid, however, was the sober heart of royal power, quieter in ritual, yet more dangerous in consequence than the clamorous ports to the south. On its ridge, the royal Alcazar held the king and his councils within thick walls and echoing halls. Here, the Council of Castile and other bodies weighed petitions, taxes, wars, and rebellions under painted ceilings and heavy beams. In the courtyards and corridors, lawyers, clerks, messengers, and guards hurried between chambers, their black cloaks brushing worn stone. The air carried smoke from hearths, the tang of ink and parchment, and the odor of horses and sweat. Clergy in white surplices and nobles with ledgers and signet rings moved in careful procession, a choreography of power and duty. From nearby monasteries and churches, bells tolled the hours over the city, fragmentation and civil war, Catalan revolt, Portuguese separation, exhausted armies, and empty coffers. And though 4 centuries divide that Spain from ours, its rhythm feels hauntingly familiar. A country of greed and grace, of innovation and unrest, of bleakness and exhilaration, forever reinventing itself, and yet still, somehow, the same Spain. I hope you enjoyed your tour of Spain in 1640. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for future videos.